Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of information articles, research your notes, and boil them down to the core insights so you get informed fast without the overwhelm. Today, we're doing a really fascinating deep dive into health, longevity, well-being. Our guide is a critical care physician who, sees people right at the very end of their lives, and from that has gained some really profound insights into what actually prevents illness and, well, extends life. We're going to explore 8 powerful pillars for a healthier life and uncover some, honestly, surprising facts about how simple things like light, water, even trust can really transform your health. So our expert, you've spent your career really focused on finding easily graspable tools, things people can actually do to live better lives. And you've distilled these down into what you call the 8 pillars of health. You see them as this interconnected chain, right? Each link is like an organ system.
That's right. And the idea isn't just to fix the weakest link, like modern medicine often does with a pill for this, a pill for that, often with side effects. The goal is to strengthen all the links. That's the path to true longevity.
Okay.
And what's kind of neat is that these pillars, they form a simple acronym. NEWSTART.
NEWSTART. What does that stand for?
It's nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust.
Right.
Now, they're all vital, every single one. But for our deep dive today, we're going to focus on some of the, let's say, most impactful and maybe the most underappreciated areas. And we'll start with what I really think is the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest place to see benefits quickly.
Okay, lowest hanging fruit, I'm guessing. Sunlight. You mentioned surprising fact.
You got it, sunlight.
So let's unpack this, because when most of us think sunlight, we think vitamin D straight away. Is that just part of the story?
It's a tiny piece, absolutely. There's this very common misconception that sunlight equals vitamin D and that popping a supplement somehow replaces going outside. That idea is really being significantly debunked now. Sunlight has far, far more benefits. Actually, I remember this one case really stuck with me. A 15-year-old boy, he had blood cancer and then developed this terrible flesh-eating lung infection, necrotizing pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
He was maybe 2 days away from dying, and his one request was just to go outside.
Just to be outside.
Yeah. And what happened next was, well, it was mind-blowing to me at the time. After just the second day of being wheeled outside, his infection, it was 60 to 70% gone.
60 to 70%, just from being outside.
Just from being outside. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of transformation, it hints at the power of infrared light from the sun. See, infrared light penetrates really deeply, maybe up to about 8 centimeters into the body.
8 centimeters, that's quite deep.
It is. And it stimulates melatonin production, but not the melatonin you think of for sleep, from the pineal gland in your brain. This is melatonin produced right inside your cell's mitochondria. Those are the energy factors.
Okay, melatonin in the mitochondria, what's that doing?
It acts as a really powerful antioxidant. It's like a cooling system for the mitochondria, preventing damage, what we call oxidative stress. Keeps them running efficiently.
Oxidative stress, like cellular rust you mentioned.
Exactly. That's a good way to think about it. It prevents that cellular rusting.
So what does this all mean for those chronic diseases we're always hearing about? Heart disease, diabetes, dementia.
Well, many of these diseases, they are fundamentally rooted in mitochondrial dysfunction. Essentially, the energy factories in our cells just aren't working at full capacity, especially as we age or, due to other factors. My experience during COVID really highlighted this. The patients dying in the ICU, they weren't just respiratory cases. Often they were people with pre-existing conditions, obesity, heart disease, kidney disease, dementia, all things linked to mitochondrial problems. And while, yes, high vitamin D levels correlated with better COVID outcomes.
Right, I remember hearing that.
Just giving vitamin D supplements in the hospital didn't really show the same profound effect, didn't move the needle much. So I started to believe that vitamin D levels were often just a marker for who was actually getting outside into the sun, getting that beneficial infrared radiation along with the UV that makes vitamin D.
That raises a big question then. If sunlight is so powerful, why aren't we using it more in hospitals, in healthcare?
It's fascinating, isn't it? There are studies, showing patients in beds near windows get discharged faster.
Really?
Yeah. And hospitals with bigger windows, more natural light, they get better patient satisfaction surveys, which, by the way, are tied to reimbursement. So it's a win-win-win.
So why aren't we doing it?
Well, historically we did. Turn-of-the-century hospitals, they often have these big verandas where beds could literally be wheeled outside. We need to get back to that kind of thinking.
All right.
I'm actually working on this now in 3 different hospitals, trying to figure out how to get patients outside more, despite, the real staffing challenges involved.
That's great work.
And it's not just about general sunlight. There's amazing lab research, too.
Yeah.
Glenn Jeffrey at UCL, University College London, he's shown that specific wavelengths, like 670 nanometer red light, that's visible red light, can improve mitochondrial efficiency.
Just red light?
Yep, improves eyesight, helps manage glucose, even boosts collagen in the skin, makes it look tighter, younger.
How long does that take?
The effect can be seen in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. And interestingly, after that, it's like a switch flips. More exposure doesn't seem to add more benefit in that session.
15 minutes. Okay. So what about bigger real-world examples?
There was a fantastic blinded study in Brazil during COVID. Sick patients, but not on ventilators yet. They wore these jackets with LED bulbs inside, emitting 940 nanometer infrared light.
Infrared jackets?
Yeah, for 15 minutes once a day for 7 days. The group with the active jackets compared to the placebo group, statistically significant improvements. Oxygen saturation, white blood cells, heart rate, breathing rate, all better.
Wow.
And the most mind-blowing part, their average hospital stay dropped from 12 days to 8 days.
4 days shorter. That's huge.
A 4-day difference. Based on that, I started trying to get my hospitalized COVID patients outside whenever possible, 15, 20 minutes a day. I had one patient seriously ill on 35 liters of 100% oxygen. After 5 days of daily sun exposure, just 15, 20 minutes, discharged home, no oxygen needed.
Incredible.
And population studies back this up too. Remember the COVID surges in Europe in autumn 2020?
Vaguely, yeah.
They correlated with latitude. Started up in Finland, moved south towards Greece as the sun angle got lower. Less intense sunlight. Studies in the US, UK, Italy all showed areas with more sunlight had lower COVID mortality, and this was independent of vitamin D levels.
Independent vitamin D. So it really points to something else in sunlight.
Exactly. Which leads to this broader point about our general health. There was a huge Swedish study, ran for 20 years, followed 20,000, maybe 30,000 women. They found that the women with the most sun exposure had the lowest mortality from everything cancer, cardiovascular disease, other causes.
Lower mortality with more sun. Okay, that makes sense.
But get this. The magnitude of the difference was astonishing. Women in Sweden who spent the most time outside but smoked.
Uh-oh.
They had the same mortality rate as women who spent the least time outside but didn't smoke.
Wait, what? Being indoors was as risky as smoking.
That's what the data showed. Being a non-smoker who stayed indoors carried the same risk as being a smoker who got lots of sun. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Staggering.
And more recently, UK BioBreak data, huge numbers, 300, 400,000 people, showed more light exposure linked to lower all-cause mortality, lower non-skin cancer mortality, and interestingly, no increased risk of melanoma incidence.
No increase in melanoma, despite more sun.
Correct, which led to this op-ed piece titled, Sunlight, Time for a Rethink.
Clearly. So it sounds like with our modern lives, spending so much time indoors, you call it a scurvy of the 21st century, a lack of light.
I think that's a fair analogy. Americans spend, 93% of their time indoors? Brits, 92%. It's crazy. We are designed biologically to be outside.
Right.
And being outside, especially near trees, has another benefit. Trees reflect infrared light.
Huh?
So living in greener spaces, it's linked to lower rates of diabetes, hypertension, depression. There was the Green Heart study in South Louisville, Kentucky. They planted 8,000 mature trees.
8,000 trees.
Yep. And over 2 years, the residents nearby, with no other documented lifestyle changes, showed a 13 to 20% drop in inflammation markers and a 10 to 15% reduction in strokes.
Just from planting trees nearby.
Seems like it. It's powerful stuff.
Okay, so this is super actionable. For someone listening, what can they do tomorrow? When's the best time for sun, especially if you're worried about UV, skin cancer? And what if you live somewhere cloudy or you just can't get outside much?
Good questions. For the metabolic benefits, the infrared benefits, with less UV risk, aim for mornings and evenings when the sun's lower in the sky.
Morning and evening sun. Okay.
Noon gives you the most infrared, yes, but also the most UV. So if you're fair-skinned or just not used to the sun, definitely cover up, use shade, or limit your time during those peak hours.
In cloudy days.
Still worth going out. Even on a cloudy day, you get way more beneficial infrared light outside than you do sitting indoors.
Right, because windows block it.
Exactly. Modern windows, especially energy-efficient ones, block a lot of infrared. And the light we get inside from LEDs, fluorescent bulbs, it's very narrow spectrum. Historically, we always had full-spectrum light from the sun or fire. There's even a preprint study, again from Glenn Jeffrey's lab, showing that just switching from LED bulbs back to old-fashioned incandescent bulbs improved people's color differentiation by 25%.
25%, just from changing a light bulb.
Because the incandescent bulbs have more red and infrared, which helps the mitochondria and the retina.
Wow. So our indoor lighting could literally be affecting our eyesight, our health, without us knowing. Okay, this leads perfectly into the next thought. If bright days are so important, what about dark nights? That must be the other side of the coin, right?
It absolutely is. It's the yin to sunlight's yang. Studies that correlate dark days and bright nights, meaning not enough sun during the day and too much light at night with increased mortality, really highlight this.
Bright nights. So screens, lights on late.
Exactly. At night, light, especially the blue light from screens and LEDs, does two main negative things. First, it slams the brakes on melatonin production from your pineal gland. That's your sleep hormone.
Right. Less melatonin, harder to sleep.
Precisely. And second, it messes with your circadian rhythm, your internal body clock. Your brain sees light and thinks, oh, it must be daytime. So if it's 10 p.m. and you're blasting your eyes with a bright screen, your clock gets pushed later, making it really hard to fall asleep when you should.
So what can we do? How do we ensure our nights are properly dark?
Well, the simplest and best thing is just turn off the bright lights and screens, ideally an hour or two before bed.
Easier said than done sometimes.
I know. Many devices have night shift or red shift settings now. Those are better than full bright blue light, definitely, but they still emit some light.
Okay, what about blue blocking glasses?
They can help, yeah. But light can still leak around the frames, and some light even gets through closed eyelids. So a good sleep mask is actually really beneficial, especially if you travel or can't fully control your bedroom lighting.
Sleep mask.
Yeah.
Got it. And things like night lights, clock radios with bright numbers.
Avoid them in the bedroom if you can. Your bedroom should be a cave, as dark as possible. Even reading old-fashioned candlelight is actually less disruptive than a bright backlit Kindle screen. Studies show those e-readers can delay sleep onset.
Right. Backlit screens are the enemy at night.
Yeah.
Okay, now we touched on vitamin D earlier with sunlight. Do the supplements actually work? Should people be taking them?
Yes, absolutely. Vitamin D supplements do work. There are good meta-analyses showing daily supplementation can lower the risk of things like acute respiratory infections and even reduce the risk of developing autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or Crohn's disease.
Okay, so they are effective.
They are. Vitamin D is crucial. It's technically a fat-soluble hormone, affects DNA, calcium, the immune system. Really important. And estimates are, what, 1 billion people worldwide are deficient? Maybe 50% are insufficient? So yes, supplementation can be very beneficial for many.
Right.
But always best get your levels checked first, because it is possible to take too much vitamin D, and that can mess with your calcium metabolism. Also, how much you need depends on your body size, your skin color, where you live.
Right. It's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. And while sunlight is the best way to get it naturally, you can get some from food too, fatty fish, mushrooms exposed to UV light.
Okay, good to know. Let's move to the next pillar. Water. Now, most people think, okay, drink water, stay hydrated. Obvious. But you mentioned something about external use. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Hydration is vital, of course. But the external application of water, especially playing with temperature, hot and cold, has some really significant effects on the immune system.
Okay, how so?
Well, we often focus on the adaptive immune system, antibodies, vaccines, that's important. But our innate immune system is the first line of defense. It uses special cells and a molecule called interferon. Interferon is a really potent antiviral signal.
Interferon, got it.
Now, viruses, like SARS-CoV-2, for example, often have ways to try and block or counteract our interferon response. It's a key battleground. And what's fascinating is how our body uses fever. You know how interferon production ramps up with temperature?
So fever actually helps make more interferon.
Exactly. Fevers are basically your body turning up the heat to boost interferon and make it a hostile environment for the virus to replicate. So, quickly treating every little fever, unless it's dangerously high, might actually be cutting the legs out from under your own immune response.
So we shouldn't necessarily rush to lower a fever.
Within reason, yeah. Let the body do its thing.
So if fevers are good, how does external water use mimic that? Saunas.
Yeah.
Cold plunges.
Precisely. Hot therapies, like saunas, or even just hot baths or towels, can induce a kind of artificial fever. They raise your core temperature, boosting that interferon response. There are great Finnish studies showing regular sauna use, like 4 to 7 times a week, is linked to significantly lower rates of dying from cardiovascular disease.
4 to 7 times a week. Wow.
Yeah, they take their sauna seriously. And the combination, hot then cold, like a sauna followed by a cold plunge or shower, that's also really powerful.
Why the cold part?
The cold shock causes vasoconstriction. Your surface blood vessels clamp down. This actually helps keep your core body temperature elevated for longer after the heat exposure. Plus, the cold stress does something called demargination. It basically kicks white blood cells that are just kind of hanging out on the walls of your blood vessels back into active circulation, boosts immune surveillance, like putting more police officers on patrol.
Kicking immune cells into gear like that.
Oh.
Okay, next up, air. Seems obvious, breathe clean air.
Yeah.
But you're suggesting there's more to it than just avoiding smog.
Absolutely. Good oxygen, low CO2, that's crucial, of course. High CO2 levels directly impact cognitive function, by the way. Makes you feel sluggish, affects decision-making.
Right, like in a stuffy meeting room.
Exactly. But outdoor air, especially around trees and plants, has these hidden benefits. Plants release compounds called phytoncides. They're basically aromatic molecules.
Phytoncides, okay, what do they do?
They've been shown to elevate our own immune system function, specifically natural killer cells, and they also promote relaxation. There was a Japanese study. They took CEOs out for walks in these Hinoki cypress forests.
Forest bathing.
Kind of, yeah. And they found significant increases in the CEO's natural killer cell activity. And interestingly, they got similar effects just by infusing the air in hotel rooms with these same natural phytoncide chemicals.
You don't even need the whole forest, just the chemicals.
It seems the chemicals themselves have a direct effect.
And how long does that boost last?
In that study, the benefits lasted about 7 days after the forest exposure.
A whole week, from one walk.
Appeared so. Which again highlights the synergy of being outside, right? You get the exercise, you get the sunlight, and you get these beneficial air chemicals. Win-win-win.
Absolutely. What about indoor air, then, besides opening a window for CO2?
Opening a window is key. Even just cracking it a little can make a big difference for CO2 levels. We often see really high CO2 in offices, hotel rooms, even in cars if you leave the air recirculation on for too long. Just bringing in some fresh air helps clear that out.
Good tip for the commute. Okay, finally, the last pillar, trust. Now, in this context, you mentioned it refers to religious faith. This one feels a bit different from the others. How does it fit into a health framework, especially scientifically?
Yeah, it's an important one to discuss, and you're right. It's often seen as separate from science, but there's actually a growing body of scientific evidence looking at this. The research suggests that people who have let's say, a healthy faith, a trust in a supportive God or religious framework, they often seem better equipped to handle stress, depression, anxiety.
Is it the belief itself or the community, maybe?
It's likely a combination. The supportive faith community aspect is definitely significant. Social connection is huge for health. But there seems to be something more. What's particularly fascinating is a study that looked specifically at forgiveness. They compared people who practiced unconditional forgiveness, basically, forgiving someone whether they apologize or not, often tied to a belief that God has forgiven them.
Okay.
Compare them to people who practice conditional forgiveness, I'll forgive you if you do X, Y, Z. The unconditional forgivers had significantly less depression, less anxiety, fewer feelings of inadequacy. It was a really strong link.
Unconditional forgiveness linked to better mental health. That's interesting.
It is. And another interesting finding is that when therapists integrate aspects of a person's faith into cognitive behavioral therapy, it can sometimes make the therapy even more effective for that individual.
So are you saying the data suggests, like, belief in God can actually lead to better physical health outcomes too? Less disease?
Well, the data certainly indicates an association. People reporting a healthy relationship with their church, with God, tend to be associated with less disease. Proving direct causation is, of course, very complex in these kinds of studies.
Right. Correlation isn't causation.
Exactly. But the calming influence, the sense of purpose, the community support, these are undeniably beneficial factors for overall well-being. And anecdotally, I've seen it. Especially observing patients at the end of life. Some face death with a profound sense of peace that's hard to explain otherwise. And I've seen things that medicine just can't fully explain. I remember a young guy, testicular cancer spread everywhere, ended up with a severe anoxic brain injury after a complication. We thought he had days, maybe hours. No chance of meaningful recovery.
Yeah.
Months later, he walked out of the hospital, cognitive function largely intact. There was no medical reason for that recovery. It just happened. It taught me, we have to be humble about what we think we know. There's always more going on than we understand.
Humility in the face of the unknown. That's powerful.
Wow.
What an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much: the New Start framework, the surprising power of sunlight beyond vitamin D, the importance of darkness, using water temperature for immunity, those phytoncides in the air, and now this connection with trust and faith. It really hits home how these simple, often overlooked things, light, water, air, belief, hold immense power for our health. From potentially cutting hospital stays with sunshine to boosting immunity with hot and cold. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, we always like to leave our listener with one final thought, something to maybe mull over. And you shared something you're particularly fascinated by, something about unexpected scientific insights hidden in ancient texts.
Yes, it's something that personally fascinates me. It's this idea, looking at ancient writings, specifically the Bible in this case, and seeing things that seem, well, scientifically prescient long before the science was known. Like Paul writing, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. Okay, maybe metaphorical. But then you look at the detailed description of the wilderness sanctuary in Exodus chapters 25 to 30.
The tabernacle.
Exactly. It has this three-part structure. The outer court with the altar for sacrifice representing blood, then the laver for washing maybe the interstitial fluid, the cleansing fluid between cells. Then you enter the holy place, veiled, which is like the cell itself.
Okay, I'm following.
Inside that cell, you have the 7-branch candlestick, the menorah perhaps representing the mitochondria, the 7-step Krebs cycle producing energy, and deeper still, behind another veil, the most holy place, like the nucleus of the cell.
The nucleus.
And what's inside the most holy place? The Ark of the Covenant, holding the 10 Commandments, the code of life for them. What's in our nucleus? 2 strands of DNA, our code of life, whose manipulation we now know leads to disease and death.
Wow, that's quite a parallel. Cell biology described metaphorically thousands of years ago.
It seems like it. Concepts like blood circulation, cellular structures, totally unknown science back then. Yet the metaphors seem to fit remarkably well. It makes you wonder about the depth of knowledge that might be embedded in places we don't usually look for science.
That is a truly thought-provoking idea to end on. That profound scientific relevance might be woven into ancient wisdom, waiting to be seen from a different perspective. A huge thank you for sharing that and for this entire incredible deep dive today. You've made some really complex ideas so clear and actionable. And thank you, our listener, for joining us on this journey. We hope this deep dive has sparked some new thoughts and given you some powerful insights for your own health and well-being. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.